Boom.
I will. Yeah, we are live. All right. It is Woodward Tigers, episode 10, I believe, officially of the Woodward Tigers rebranding. And it's kind of a happy time in Motown. Oddly enough, what a difference a couple of weeks make. I am Chris Brown. Alongside me here is John Uper, and Rogelio should be coming along in 10 minutes or so. He's down in Lakeland. He went down there to visit our buddy Keenan and to catch a bunch of Flying Tigers games. And apparently the line at Wawa was a little long for his sandwiches. So he'll be joining us shortly, I guess. But yeah, a lot of good stuff to talk about. I guess we could start with today's game, right?
I mean, absolutely.
The Tigers. I guess in general, we could talk about the homestand. It's a homestand since we last met, I believe, right? They
yeah.
Play every day and twice on Sunday.
A beautiful 6-2 homestand. You can't knock that.
And particularly against division opponents, and taking 4 out of 5 from the first place team, the Minnesota Twins. I mean, it feels good. It's hard not to feel good about that. It does take a little bit of. It doesn't feel as great when you look at the standings and see what is that. I think the Tigers are still 9 games back.
Yeah.
But 8 games back. Still, you got to start somewhere, and heck of a homestand right now. And in today's game, it felt for all the world like it was going to be a wasted effort. It kind of felt a lot like the games they've been having for most of the year. I think they had 3 hits going into the 8th inning.
Yeah.
And one of those hits was a Spencer Torkelson a single that he got thrown out trying to stretch it to a double. So it was basically 2 hits. And then sure enough, kind of some unsung heroes. You got an Eric Haas walk and a Daz Cameron karmic home run revenge. He had hit a ball 416 feet that was caught earlier in the game. And comes back with a huge 2-run homer. And the Tigers, Gregory Soto slams the door. And you come out of this homestand feeling really much better about the team, even if the stats don't necessarily tell you should feel much better.
Yeah, offensively, they're still not bashing and mashing to wins, but Dickerson used the word timely about 8 times today. Okay, and that's a euphemism for not hitting a lot, but it all worked out just fine, and that's okay. They had a couple games where they put some runs on the board. If you want to call 5 runs an outburst, they had that, so I think it's getting a little better. I wrote a thing today about the guys who are all hitting sub 200. If a couple of them start to get on a roll, it looks like Scope is at least churning a little bit, starting to come around. Candelario has had his moments here and there. If a couple of those guys start to hit, some of these 2-run performances might become 4-run performances, and the way they're pitching, they might be able to keep winning some ball games.
Yeah, and we've talked about it many times, and Jonathan Scope is not an offensive juggernaut, but the way he operates and the way he's operated for years is these incredible streaks. And when he's hot, he can carry an offense, and it's not a thing where he's hitting like 6 home runs. But what was the game the other day? He had 4 RBIs. He's got an RBI in the first inning in each of the last 3 games.
Yep.
So and there are other teams. I maintain that at some point Javier Baez is going to go through this similar streak.
Exactly.
It would be nice if they could do it both at the same time. But yeah, it just part of it. Like if you were to look. And I actually did look at this the other day because it feels like a tale of 3 seasons at this point. The Tigers went 6-7 through their first 13 games with a run differential of -1 runs.
Yep.
And that was up to Miguel Cabrera's 3,000th hit. And everybody was still feeling okay about the season. And then they went on a 3-15 slide when they were outscored by like 45 runs.
Yep.
And that led up to May 13th, which is the new May 9th from last year, because since then, they are 12-7.
But there was a lockout this year, so I moved back a little bit.
Yeah. They missed about a week. But the funny thing is about this 12-7 stretch is they still have a negative run differential. I think they're like -4 over that span because there was a couple blowouts. But they're doing what they did last year, pulling out these close games, coming up with late performances. And this year, I mean, they arguably have a better pitching staff this year in general, despite all the injuries. So yeah, whereas everything felt hopeless 2 weeks ago, now you're just like, can we just get some average offense?
Yes.
And then you can, string together some wins, and they've done that for the most part. I want to say they had 8 or 9 hits, like 3 times in the homestand, maybe more than that.
Yep.
And help is on the way. I don't know if you saw that Riley Greene hit a 3-run home run tonight down in Columbus.
Yeah, opposite field single too.
He did, and he walked after that. And Austin Meadows is down there. He had a sac fly and a walk, and those two guys will be coming within the next 2 weeks, you would think, if everything stays healthy.
Even if Austin Meadows comes back, and before we heard the word vertigo, we're already wondering where the home runs were, right? But he was getting on base at like a near 370 clip. I mean, that would be a godsend for this offense right now compared to some of what they have been trotting out there.
Yeah, they even one of the questions we got today was about like who's gonna bat leadoff. Like they've got Willie Castro batting leadoff, which is not ideal. And it's like, if Grossman weren't hit or hurt, then he'd be batting leadoff. And if Meadows weren't hurt, he would be batting leadoff. And who knows, if Victor Reyes weren't hurt, he might be batting leadoff. Gilbert weren't hurt, and he might be batting leadoff. So maybe Riley Greene is batting leadoff soon. I don't know. It feels like they've scrapped together over these last couple of weeks, keep hope alive.
Yep.
It sort of feels like the cavalry's coming, but you don't want to get into your feelings too much. This is still a team that has some issues, but hopefully we've seen the turnaround, and this is kind of the baseball we're going to see for the rest of the year. It's kind of healthy, near 500, maybe get some breaks, and above 500 baseball.
You got to believe that luck is going to start to turn to their side a little bit when it comes to injuries, because they really, they took the full punch. I mean, you got to hope that was the full punch anyway. It seemed like it.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine losing any more people. I mean, they've lost, we can count it down, but it's got to be at least like 8 starters, right? Like 8 starting pitchers have been hurt. You've got Tyler Alexander, you have Michael Pineda, you have Casey Mize, you have Matt Manning, you have Joey Wentz, you have Elvin Rodriguez was hurt, but I think he's back. Who am I missing?
Oh,
Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
So that's 7.
Oof.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
They've really.
Well, the one I will, Miguel Cabrera having some soreness, missing a little time there. Every year he's been kind of marked with some injuries, so you kind of have to think that's kind of built in. He's probably going to miss a little time over the course of the next 4 months. But if he can play the way he's hitting the ball this year, if he can, get 130 games in for them, that would be pretty amazing.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, he's now a shell of a player, but he's still a shell of what he once was. But he still could be a productive player. Given we saw today, he smoked a line drive, but right back the middle. That was just, I don't even know if they would have shifted him if not for the fact that there was a double play possibility, because Cabrera is not a guy like some teams will shift him, but he's the player he is now. He's more than likely to just hit a hard grounder through the right side. So yeah, he's still capable of hitting the ball hard and knocking in runs. It's just not going to be a ton of over the fence power.
He's actually one where I'm willing to entertain the word timely as something he has a bit of skill over, because he's just such a smart hitter. You can see the approach, what he wants to do. I just get that sense he sees where there's an opening or where he has a chance to gain an edge by going to a certain part of the field. And if he can continue to do that for another year, I think that's the most we can ask.
Yeah, and so you get Cabrera producing. They gave Javier Baez a couple days off. He was a little bit banged up, but they also gave him an extra day off because he came out and said, "I'm not seeing the ball right now. I can't see it and I can't hit it." And it's pretty obvious to anybody watching him. But it's I don't know. Do you give a guy credit for coming out and admitting that? It's a little bit more honest than you hear from most players. But
well, I guess it's probably maybe a little, especially when you see what Harold Castro's doing. Let him get out there and play. Maybe you give Baez credit that he's willing not to go 0 for 20 and hurt the club, and he's in the batting cage working on stuff or whatever he is doing right now. So they're winning, so I guess I'll give him credit.
Yeah, I mean, he continues to play. He's picking just about everything at shortstop. So people have some complaints about the accuracy of his throws, but and we're giving a lot of credit to Spencer Torkelson for doing what is essentially his job as a first baseman. Like he's good at picking the ball out of the dirt, but that's like if you can't do that, you can't be a first baseman. So
right.
maybe Tigers fans are just used to seeing Prince Fielder and John Hicks and whoever else has played first base over there.
Kean,
But yeah, Torkelson is a potentially above average defender at first base, I think. But Javi Baez is getting to just about everything. Jonathan Scope continues to get to everything. So it's a fun defensive middle infield. A little bit. Candelario has been a little bit of a weak link there at third base. And in the
I've been really surprised.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I thought in other years he looked better than this. I don't know where the fielding slump happened. I said it last week. I just get that sense he's the guy in the field who's saying, "Don't hit it to me. Don't hit it to me right now."
And he's another guy who, in the past, it's odd. He's a guy who I wouldn't call him streaky, but he's a guy who has gone through these kind of extended slumps, and then when he gets out of it, then he becomes incredibly consistent for like months at a time. But he's got to get out of that slump first. So I don't know. And then we saw some other fun stuff this week. Cody Clemens made his major league debut. It's something that fans were asking for, and nothing big happened. He walked in the game. He did. He's not a natural left fielder. He made a nice diving catch today in left field, but he also had a really rough route on a ball that I'm not sure. I think the good left fielders in baseball would have gotten to that ball pretty easily and caught it. But left field is not generally a place where you put your best athletes. So I don't know if he would have gotten it if he'd run a better route, but it was clearly a bad route for a guy who's not played a ton of left field, and that cost the Tigers a run, their second run of the game. It looked like it might cost them the game, but
there's no question. Alex Gordon puts that in his hip pocket. I agree.
Yeah. I don't think Eloy Jimenez is getting to that, but prime Justin Upton probably catches it. Cespedes and maybe even Badu gets to it. But so and then we got another gutsy performance from Alex Faedo today. He continues. I think they said, what is he? 6 consecutive games of 5 innings or more and 2 innings or fewer to start his major league career, he was the first pitcher to do that 5 times since Steven Matz in 2015, which is kind of hard to believe, but
5 and 2.
Yeah.
Keep cranking out 5 and 2. We'll take it.
It's a modern quality start, it seems like, particularly with the way that the bullpen is performing. But and that was another one where I think the thing that impresses me the most about Fido is how he doesn't seem to get rattled. I think they're 2 men on with 1 out in the 5th, and he got down 3-0 to Max Kepler, who's just been bombing the Tigers all year. And what do you know? He comes back, and I think he gets a pop out and then a ground out and gets out of it. Hello, Roger.
Hello.
There he is.
Looking good. I don't know. How do I cede control of this thing to you? Because I feel like whenever I do this, what's that?
I already have control.
All right. I feel like I do something wrong and we can't get comments.
Oh, really? No. We're good right now. Let me see.
I don't see any comments. Maybe people don't want to comment right now. But
yeah, we got people in the chat. Yeah.
No, not yet. I don't see anybody. No.
Oh, really? You don't see that?
I don't see any comments. I see that we've got 6 people watching, but whatever.
Oh, there he is.
All right. Hi, Michael Meyer. All right, thank you. Sorry, I was a little self-conscious over here. But yeah, we've just been kind of running down the state of the week for the most part, and then kind of digging into more today. We talked about there's the Wawa.
Yeah.
Nice. We talked about what did we talk about? We talked about Cody Clemens. We talked about Alex Faedo. We talked about Riley Greene and Austin Meadows coming. We talked about the team playing well over the last couple of weeks. We didn't talk about Tarek Skubal continuing to be an ace.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I picked up on pretty quickly I remember last year saying, he's going to win Rookie of the Year, and I was totally off by that, but it's like he's Zen-like level now of there's not even the strikeouts are not like the high number of strikeouts. It's strikeouts when he needs them, if that makes any sense. And he's coming up there. His approach to pitching is chef's class. And one of the things that I really think has helped out the Tigers right now with all the rookies and everything right now is Skubal just doing what he's going in and that's what an ace is. You don't need a qualification. It goes in every 5th day and either stops the losing streak or keeps it going for Detroit. And he's taking over the staff. Well, that's just my opinion.
Well, I think that's a fair assessment. He's just been rock steady, time in, time out. And the transition from what he was last year, so homer prone, to being just nothing like that this year, is really impressive. I mean, how much of that goes to him? How much of it goes to Fetter? Who knows? Doesn't matter. But it's an impressive string of starts. That's no question.
And Matt in the comment section I think you could say fully started because weapon on the bullpen. And he's right about that, which I did see a storyline. Somebody sent me a storyline earlier about that makes Michael Fulmer more tradable. I guess depending on there's no verified sources that you're shopping around, but a Foley slider, and we've been talking about this, his numbers, like his ERA looks a little high, but his FIP is done pretty well. But that we'll get to that when closer to trade deadline. But either way, we mentioned the Foley thing. I thought that was important to remember. And also Will Vest came back this week, and he picked up where you left off, and I thought he had a pretty good week too.
Yeah, Foley got a big strikeout today, I think, which is, that's the big next step for him. I don't think he's ever going to be like a huge strikeout guy, but he needs to have, you mentioned that slider, he needs to have a pitch that he can go to when he needs a swing and miss. Because ordinarily he's just kind of a power sinker guy. You want him out there trying to get your double plays or a ground ball, but you can't just be that. And I think he didn't have very many strikeouts so far this year, but the way they've been kind of gradually developing these relievers, and it seems like over the course of a season, they're developing the relievers. I wouldn't say necessarily that he's not a 1-to-1 replacement for Michael Fulmer, but he does make the bullpen that much deeper if he can contribute. And then in which case you can, Lang is basically the Fulmer replacement.
Yeah.
Vest becomes Lang and so forth and so on. So yeah, there's a lot of good things to talk about right now, despite the offense still being below average. It's there's some optimism, I think.
Yeah, and I know there's some. We'll get to the segments here shortly. One of the things that out of necessity they put Willie Cash with the leadoff position. I know there's some based off this extra. Mark Gurash on Twitter hates Willie Castro with a passion. We did get a question about that, and we'll address it later. But I think Willie's not going to be your household name, but I thought for Hinch to put him in that situation to contribute as much as he could, nobody else has been doing anything in the leadoffs, but Grossman, even before he was injured, it's been a struggle at the top of the order. But now to see some consistency and some hard hit balls and multi-hit games and 1-3 runs, and somebody mentioned earlier too, the Tigers are so way below league average in runs scored, 143. So there is ways to go.
Sorry.
And no, you're good. I haven't noticed that. But look at it right now. The situation, the Yankees are playing we were listening on the way back from Lakeland, the Yankees and Angels, and Yankees have the best record in the American League. They're going into the zoo. It's not you think of the Bronx Zoo, but it's on the last month. Some of the headlines out in New York with Josh Donaldson and their fans. It's gonna be a pain in the ass.
I gotta sneeze. I'm sorry.
There you go.
I'm back. Sorry.
Okay. So let's go into due to I don't have my fancy board, seeing that I don't want to give $600 or however much it is piece of equipment around that. Thank you, stimulus money. Without further ado, here's our inside the number segment. There you go. That's my sound effect for that. So, Uper, what is your inside the number?
I just want a very simple number because it's a guy we talk about a fair amount, but having a big day. So my number was 0.904. That's the OPS of Colt Keith. 2 home runs today. Smacked double too, I think.
He also just singled.
Well, there you go. He's beyond the cycle. He has more total bases than a cycle. So tell me this. How much longer is he a Whitecap? What's our prediction? What's the over-under? He's an Erie.
That's actually a question we got, too.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get back. That's a good question. We'll probably save it to the question part of it, but I have some theories rolling around in my head.
Well, I think that, the kid is doing all he can do. They've got to be really pleased that they've found what they found in the 5th round there. I think, no question, he's in Erie soon. We'll talk about it. That's fine. But closing in on a top 5 prospect in that system?
Yeah, definitely. As far as whenever we have the ability to get our top 25 list out for Tiger Mag Report, I would put him in the top 5, definitely. The Tigers haven't really had a hitter like this in quite some time in the system. But again, we have to proceed with the air of caution, because until he gets to Double A, if he starts doing this in Double A, then we can go, okay, well,
yeah,
that's awesome, But I mean, he's doing this right now. What is he? Is he 21, Chris?
He is 21, I believe.
Yeah, and I know there's some things.
Let me check. I'll double check on that while you talk. Yeah.
I know there's some people on Tiger Mag Report were asking why he's not a top 100 prospect. There's a lot of good prospects that came out of Baseball America's top 100. A lot of them. There's some new ones from St. Louis, and yes, Marcel Myers, number 12, and yes, he's 70 spots ahead of Jack Job, and yes, no one gives a crap about prospect order when this all happens. So shut up. I don't want to hear it. And hopefully, I left the game to get back here on time. The game's still going on right now because there's a rain delay. So the rain never happened, by the way, down in Lakeland. It was supposed to be this big storm. We went under the rafters and nothing. And then I had a feeling, I'm like, you know what? As soon as we leave, what's going to happen? Isaac Pacheco, yeah, they score runs. Isaac Pacheco, 3 for 4. I did get some of the I did get video, so I can't.
Pacheco just singled again for an RBI. He's 4 for 5 tonight.
Mother.
And Cam Brown is pitching.
Even worse. Man, come on, really? Seriously, what the fuck?
There you go. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I was trying to look and my internet wasn't working. So Keith is still 20 until mid-August. So, yeah.
The thing with him is, they drafted him kind of. He had
2 bases. Sorry.
I think he made a nice play in the field too.
Yeah, he actually. I have some video from that. He did a really good job on the field. I'm sorry, that was very rude of me. Go ahead, continue.
That's fine. I think what I like about Keith the most, and he is still 20, as you confirmed. They drafted him saying, talking about his line drive stroke and the power coming later, and boy, the power seems like it's here. It's at least it's close. So that's a huge step, because if you just go by the old scouting aphorisms of power coming last, he's starting to show it's here.
Yeah, I don't know. He is. I think we've said it for a couple weeks now. We think he's the second best hitter in the system outside of Riley Greene. Our buddy Trevor thought maybe Pacheco. I think I like Keith's control of the strike zone a little bit better and his feel for contact a little bit better than Pacheco. But either way, yeah, I mean he's that's exciting. 20-year-old hitting at high A. So yeah, somebody asked us to project when he's going to move up, make some Canseco and the Simpsons thing. So yeah, but we'll discuss that in a little bit later when we get to the questions. I have my inside the number is 57.6. Yes, yes it is. No, 57.9. That's what it is. That is the swinging strike, also known as whiff rate, on Alex Lang's curveball this year.
Wow.
Which is the highest of any pitch a pitcher has thrown at least 100 times on an all baseball. You could say it's the best curveball in baseball, if that's the way you want to define it.
Let's do that.
What's that? Yeah.
Let's do that.
Okay, Alex Lang has the best curveball in baseball. Now, what's interesting, he did not have it today, it seemed like. He did get 2 swings on it and two swings and misses. but I think he threw a bunch of balls with it. So he was trying to battle in with his fastball and his change mostly. But still, yeah, I mean, that's pretty fun. I think somebody else asked us about Lang not long ago about if we saw this coming when the Tigers traded for him. And I think definitively the answer to that was no, no way. Like I did not picture him being one of the 5 most dominant relievers in baseball when they traded Nick Castellanos for him. So, but yeah, that's pretty cool pitch and nice to have a guy that dominant.
Yeah, he complimented the Tigers' development on getting him to be a reliever this week. So that was a good comment to see, especially because, again, for some people, apparently developing 12 homegrown pitchers is not enough. I don't know what the. Anyway, that's just another story for another day. So my inside number is a different one. It's probably the one I think one way we've probably never done before, and that would be the number. Well, we have done this one, outs above average, which is 2, but it is a number that I saw on Baseball Savant. Is the outfield jump leaderboard. So you guys know how this works at all?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the jump is calculated on only 2 play. There were 2 stars or harder, meaning 90% catch probability or lower. In order to qualify for the leaderboard, the player must have 2 start opportunities than team games. So against the jump, so jump is from 0 to 3 seconds. Reaction, you need to go and check it out. But I thought this was a cool thing. I know is we've never done this before, but coming in at number 9 for 2 stars in terms of feet above average, feet versus average, one Jose Alsakar, former Tiger prospect, who among the top 10 in that category. So he has 2. He averages 2, or excuse me, he has 2 outs above average, and he has a pretty good reaction time. So he has a burst as well. So he covers 36.1 feet. So he's making a lot of ground out there. And if you think about guys like Robbie Grossman, Robbie Grossman, by the way, is in the bottom, or like in the 29 from 30th. But I thought that was cool. And again, this was a guy that, for whatever reason, I know he started to hit with power. Like him and Derek Hill had that same year in Erie where they were both hitting really well. And I guess they went with Hill versus him. But yeah, I just thought that I'd throw that one in there.
Nice. Yeah, there's a fun, like they let you break down the defensive, like you can break it down by first step, and also what's the other aspect of that is like sprint speed. Basically, you got like reaction time, and sprint speed. You can see kind of the 2 different facets of being a good outfielder. Some guys just have great instincts. Some guys can just run down anything, and
Sure.
best of the best have both. But yeah, that's cool. Jose Alsakar, the famous 4-tool outfielder from Tiger system, who never seemed to have any power, could do everything else. It's fun to see guys like that. Like I was thinking today, somebody asked us about Chance Kirby.
Yeah,
right?
well, I thought it was a reliever.
Yeah, no, I think that I agree with that. But he very much to me is in the Spencer Watkins Warwick softball camp of like just a guy that's been around and he performs well, and we don't really pay much attention to him. And then one day he's in the big leagues, and we go, wait a minute, why didn't we pay attention to that?
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, I don't know. We good for the other segments now?
Yeah, let's go right into the good, the bad, the ugly. As again, there you go. That's your sound effect this week. But yeah, engineering on the fly. That's how we're doing it today.
Yeah, and so I'm not going to go too in depth in mine today. My good is a fellow named Mookie Betts. It's not that much fun to celebrate guys on the Dodgers or the Yankees or whatever. But after a couple years, a couple down years by his standards, you're beginning to worry a little bit. Like, hey, maybe we've seen the best of Mookie Betts, and his good days are behind him. And he's just been awesome this year. He is, I believe, the number 1 player in baseball by FWAR, hitting 306, 16 home runs. Almost has as many home runs as he had all of last year. He had 23 last year. It's a 182 WRC plus, still playing good defense in the outfield, already 3.5 WAR. Like, it's sometimes I know people celebrated him before, but he is the second best player in baseball behind Mike Trout, or he has been over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years. And it's nice to see a guy like that continue to play well. I like my MVPs to stay MVPs, if you will. My bad is Grayson Rodriguez, the top pitching prospect in baseball to a lot of people, and a huge key to the Baltimore Orioles' eventual turnaround, or at least their hopes. And Tigers fans can relate to losing pitchers, of course, but yeah, he went down yesterday, I believe, late in the game with a lat strain, and they came out today and said that he's going to be out for a significant amount of time. Now, apparently, there are like 3 different degrees of a lat strain. The first one, you're out for like 2-3 weeks. The second one is more like a couple months. And the third one requires surgery. We don't know which one is which yet. Kind of crossing your fingers that it's the second one, and he can come back later this year or maybe head to the AFL. But it's a bummer because, he was there wasn't much of an argument for keeping him in AAA. He was 5-1 with a 2.09 ERA and a 1.66 FIP. So, almost 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, under 2.25 walks. I think he'd given up 1 home run all year. Like, he's just wasting all his bullets in AAA, basically. And you understand the Orioles are not ready to compete, so they're probably gaming the service time. But this is kind of like, this is part of the reason I feel like we've seen the Tigers have such strict low pitch counts and inning counts with a lot of their minor leaguers this year. Is they want to get these guys developed and used to pitching all the time, but also not throwing as few pitches as possible to get the development in, if that makes any sense. Because hopefully this is not a serious injury, but if it is, it's the best pitching prospect in baseball. I think Franklin Perez did have a lat strain among about 7 other things. And it's I think it's a muscle group on your back and shoulder area. They might go all the way down to your hip. I don't know. I'm not a scientician, but yeah, it's not good. And it's that he's a really good pitcher, so it's a bummer. And then my ugly, well, this is just kind of fun for us, right? My ugly is the Chicago White Sox. Maybe I'm asking for it by rubbing it in here, even though they still have a better record than the Tigers. But boy, talk about a disappointing team this year, right? Like. And our buddy Steve Ghostmav had pointed out several times that the White Sox have a worse run differential than the Tigers. And that they haven't had Lance Lynn all year, but they're down Tim Anderson now. They had multiple incidents. They still have Tony Russa running that thing, but it's been a bad year. And like, how about Yohan Moncada? That guy, he's hitting 130 something right now. For a guy who was kind of supposed to be a superstar and had a couple good years, he's really been a pretty disappointing player, I think. Luis Robert is still really good. What's that?
Dallas Keuchel. Well, I think they released him, didn't they?
Yeah, they released Dallas Keuchel. They're giving everyday at-bats to Lurie Garcia, and, Yasmani Grandal hasn't been good this year, which is a bummer. Getting 163. Moncada, 131. Josh Harrison, 172. I don't even know if he's still on the team.
No, he is. He played today.
Yeah, Gavin Sheets, 200. So you got Jose Abreu is doing fine, but it's nothing compared to his standards. It's 250 with 6 homers. Andrew Vaughn has taken a step forward, but again, it's just it's a pretty ugly start to the year for them. And I don't really mind all that much, if I'm going to be honest. So that's my good, bad, and ugly.
I like it.
Yeah, and by the way, kudos to Janice and Crystal, who were warning us that the White Sox offense was going to struggle. They were way ahead of the curve. And remember, they're like, the Tigers are going to be better off offensively. And I thought they were – internally, I was laughing. Like, there's no way. I mean, it barely is. I mean, in terms of runs scored, it's a totally different ballgame. But still, that was a crap show. Again, and this is something that goes back to Brandon Day. It happens in cycles to the White Sox. Every few years, they get really good. They implode. They'll trade everybody, rinse, and repeat. This is the Chicago White Sox. Look at it. Look it up since 2005.
And they got a lot of guys people would want in trade.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I wouldn't mind having Liam Hendricks. No, Tigers bullpen's fine. I'm fine. So I'm more like a Luis Robert guy or something.
100%.
Oh, yeah.
That guy swung with one arm today. He was out in front of it, but he kind of kept himself back a little bit. And with one arm, he put one to the fence off Alek Manoah today. Unbelievable. I mean, that guy's sickeningly talented.
I got to see that. All right, Huber, you're up. What's
All
the
right.
good and ugly?
The good Tiger fan favorite from way back when, Frank the Big Cat Catalanato, head coach, Hofstra University. They just won the Colonial Athletic Association tournament.
Nice.
He's bringing Hofstra to the NCAA tournament for the first time in their 80-year baseball history. They've only had one winning season besides this one since the year 2000. So he was just sitting at home in New York, and a guy from New York Post, that Adam Rubin, called him and said, "Are you interested in coaching? Hofstra's got an opening." And he said, "Yeah, I guess I'd kind of be interested in that." And it just grew from there, that he kind of stumbled into the job, and now he's going to the NCAA tournament. So I'm kind of happy for the cat. My bad, Jim Cott, venerable announcer,
Yep, I know you're going with this. Go ahead.
pitching legend, a little bit behind the times here of what might be socially acceptable, as he as he refers to Yankee starter Nestor Cortez as Nestor the molester.
Yeah.
What I would have paid was to see the look on his broadcast partner's face when that came out of his mouth. Can you imagine?
Oh, that's so painful. It's so painful.
And I'm sure Jim Cotton, when he talks, he seems like the nicest man in the world. But, it's time. He's got to be 80. Let's move on. Let's just move on.
He was in the booth. He was in the press box the other day when I went to go cover the game for the Tigers and Twins.
Okay.
So it was him and Roger Clemens in the same kind of area, and that was kind of, I'm not gonna lie, for me I'm still new to this whole writing and covering a team and a press box thing.
Sure.
But to have them both within the same area, even him and Roger Clemens, I literally was walking in to go, and there was a big crowd there in my usual entrance, so I just go on the other side, and all of a sudden it occurred to me, Roger Clemens is in the box. Oh my God, Roger Clemens is in the box. And yeah,
nice.
So, yeah. Anyway, but continue. You go ahead.
Okay, my ugly is a really ugly one. 12 years ago tonight, Armando Galarraga, the imperfect perfect game. Bow our heads in silence, please. It's just one of those moments, always know where you were on that last out. I was on the corner of Orlabor Road and 2nd Avenue in Ankeny, Iowa, listening to a radio coming over my phone, and all of a sudden, the radio guys are just going crazy, and your heart sinks. And I'm racing to get to a spot where I could watch the play. And it's kind of gone down in team history. And, people will say Galarraga is more famous for having this happen to him. But I'm sure at the end of the day, he'd rather have that damn perfect game. Where were you guys when it happened?
I don't remember where. Wait. What was 2012? I'm trying to think. 2010? Or 2010.
Yeah, 2010.
Yeah. So I'll just tell you this, guys. And I think Chris, I've talked about this with Chris. There's a period from 2008 to 2012 that I was busier then than I am now. The 60-pound gain of weight came during my 3 years finishing up at U of M Dearborn.
Yeah.
So I was doing full-time class. I was taking 15 credit hours, working 2 jobs, and still, free time was not a thing. So I don't remember. I know maybe it was my apartment. I maybe passed out somewhere. I know I watched the last couple innings, but that was it. I don't remember where I was. I'll be honest. I
actually remember distinctly. I was in the apartment of my then girlfriend, now wife, and I remember that. So it's 2010. So my stepson was just over 7 years old, but I remember he was still up because the game was so damn quick.
Yes.
It was like an hour and 40 minutes. I think Galarraga was at like 83 pitches after getting to 28th out. And I remember, feeling, I think it's the most like physically sick I felt from a sporting event ever in my life. And maybe a Michigan football game when I was younger or something like that. But like, you felt like this deep sense of unfairness. But I've since gone on to I'm one of those people who believes that it's for the game of baseball and for Armando Galarraga and for Jim Joyce and for everybody, it was better that it happened the way it did than if it had just been a perfect game. You don't scoff at a perfect game, but there are guys who have thrown perfect games that you don't particularly care about or think about. But this is a memorable. I think a lot of times we're more, great mistakes are more memorable than great performances. If for only that they think every time it comes up again, you go, oh man, that sucked.
Well,
nobody remembers
remember
when the blimp landed correctly. They remember the Hindenburg.
Yeah.
Well, it's like Facebook events when they remind you of like, oh, that's when something sad happens. I mean, I don't need that hurt all over again. And the Tigers treated it and all that, and that's fine. But there's certain things I just don't want to think about, and that happens to be one of them. And
all right.
Yeah, Galarraga's career was never the same. I mean, that's real exaggeration, but just what he was as a Tigers pitcher. I mean, you look at some of those rotations back then, it was just it was a footprint in a time where the Tigers couldn't get pitching for whatever reason. And that's why having all this good pitching now is beneficial.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, Rod, you go.
All right. So my good are the Pittsburgh Pirates, who swept the LA Dodgers for the first time on the road since 2000. And Keen and I were watching the Pirates game yesterday. Or were we listening to it, or I don't know what we were doing?
We were listening on the way home.
Yeah, we're listening to it on the way back from Lakeland last night, and the Pirates are scrappy. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of those guys on the roster. I don't know their names. I mean, they're not household names, but they're a team they're a pesky team, and to beat the Dodgers, one of the best teams in the National League, to do that says something. And there was a lot, like they had this the guy who was on second base last night was making plays happen. Trying to draw a blank on his name right now at the moment, but Castro's they have a Castro too, who went 2 for 4 last night, hit 4 RBIs, and the guy who I'm thinking of the stolen base was Mercado. That guy was a pesky guy on the bases, and again, their pitching is not they had that strange stat for a while too, that their bullpen was getting more wins than their starters. Like their bullpen was doing a lot of the work, but kudos to the Pirates to do that first time. And a lot of these players weren't even around when they last did it. So that says something. My bad is Robinson Cano, who got cut by the Padres. And ironically enough, former Tiger Nomar Mazara. Thank you. I don't know why I drew a blank on his name. Got called up in his place. So he was supposed to go to AAA El Paso. He said no, but he was batting 0.9, like under 9, like 0.91, 0.91. So he wasn't doing anything. The power of Cano is gone. It's all an illusion. I know he was suspended for steroids anyways. And this might sound like I'm being bitter, but bear with me in this. My ugly is how we're responding that Derek Jeter has social media. That part and the whole Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial thing is ugly because you're choosing sides. And look, my wife's been giving me updates about the trial. I don't care. And there's a lot of things far worse right now going on in this world. And we care too much about two people who don't even like each other. Same thing. I mean, and it's not even like I'm hating on Derek Jeter. It's like this whole, that's not a news story. That's not celebrating anything. He got social media. And I don't know. I think what's labeled as news has been totally 100% watered down. And that whole trial, I'm glad it's over.
Just this morning on the Today Show, Rod, just to play to your point, they have the story about Johnny Depp on. 2 stories later, they have a story about an incredible breakthrough on fighting pancreatic cancer that was working amazingly on this woman. What's more important? I mean, you can make a million examples like that, but
yeah,
I mean, today.
And look, it's the news corporation or not the news corporations. They're feeding what people or want to hear about. So it's not like it's any fault of the companies or anything. I just think it's ugly. I mean, you could talk about the Tigers. I mean, there's a lot of things you could talk about, the injuries and all that stuff, but non-baseball related. It's just been bothering me for a while because, I mean, I might sound like an old man at cloud, and I'm not trying to be, but I don't care that Derek Jeter has Twitter. I don't care. Congratulations. That's cool. You know, I can't, neither three of us can't get verified for whatever unknown reason, but, well, anyway, whatever. The point is, those things are ugly to me, and that is the good and the bad, the ugly this week. So,
yeah, no, it's I would just try to chime in that it's the creeping influence of social media. I think the in general, like you said, these are corporations. That's part of the problem is that these are for-profit news companies, and so they've learned from social media. I bet you they get 95% of their stories basically from whatever's trending on Facebook and Twitter now, because that's what's going to get eyeballs and that's when it's going to get ad dollars. And so, whereas the news used to be the fourth estate, right? They were the people holding the fourth branch of government, that they're holding the
feet to the fire
in charge. Yeah, exactly, holding their feet to the fire. And now they're just like, it's very much like an idiocracy on my balls, just showing you whatever people want to see. So, yeah, I did not care or pay any attention to the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing, other than I would hear updates from Drew and Mike, but it does not interest me in the slightest. I read some really interesting stories lately. There was a great piece by a journalist in Baltimore who got put on a jury duty there, and he was tying it into the new show We Own the City, I think it's called, which is kind of the update to The Wire. I don't know if it's an update, but it's a de facto sequel to The Wire, and it's about how crooked police in Baltimore basically tainted every jury pool for a generation by, falsely imprisoning people, falsely accusing them, because they were incentivized to arrest more people, and they made more money. So I don't know. It's there's a lot more interesting stuff out there.
Keane was over here saying quietly, "It's awesome. It's awesome."
It is. It's really good. It's got John Bernthal, I think, is the main character, and yeah, I mean, The Wire. People love The Wire. The Wire is one of the best shows ever, and this
Fantastic.
is this is a worthy sequel. I would say it's shorter. There's only 6 episodes, and then there was just an article today about something similar in Detroit. So, not that to go all in a different direction. I'm just saying what people care about and what actually matters is diverging more and more each day, and it seems like a big bummer.
Yeah, and like another thing about Twitter, real quick, and I promise to get back to baseball. The trending topics, like some of I've had to block some things on the Tiger Minority Report and some of the Woodward Tigers and my account where it's celebrity gossip. What is that? And you can't like make it go away. It's when they do, what is it and what's happening, and it's not relevant to anything I watch or participate in. So, anyways, that's it. No more old man rant stuff. Enough. That's let's go back to baseball. And we got quite a bit of questions this week. And Huber, I sent this question over to Chris. I didn't get a chance to send it over to you, so forgive me. But this was a question, and this is Mark at Tigers2435 on Twitter. Hey, Rogelio, 2-part question for this week's pod. Willie Castro has been bad in leadoff because he was one of the few players hitting, but he has a 4.6 walk rate and only 2 barrels on the year. Who are some better options to lead off who might have a little more speed or power? And he also has a second question. Lang has been throwing his fastball less than 10% of the time compared to almost 50% last year. Has he made any significant improvements to his breaking stuff, or he's just so not fastball predictable? 2 great questions by Mark. Chris, go ahead, or you guys go ahead, and I'll respond.
We kind of touched, I think right before you got on, we touched about who might bat leadoff. If he basically, like, your 4 better candidates for leadoff were all hurt. You had Grossman out. You have who else is out? Meadows. Meadows, the way he had been performing, would be a good leadoff hitter. Riley Greene could conceivably come up be a leadoff hitter. Akil Baddoo could have been your leadoff hitter if he weren't hurt and bad. And whom I feel like I'm missing, even Victor Reyes. He's not much different than Willie Castro, but Yeah, there really isn't a great option on this team right now. I mean, you're looking at Spencer Torkelson is like the guy who works the count the best. Uh-oh, we lost a you. But I don't think you want to bat him lead off. I think you want to encourage him to swing more, not to be more patient. And I think batting him lead off would do that. So I don't know. Like I think when push comes to shove, I think AJ Hinch likes having Willie Castro there just because he has a little bit of speed and he does have some extra base pop. You know, as Mark said, it's only 2 barrels this year, but he's a guy. He's the BABIP god, I think, right, or the BABIP king. Is that what we call him? He's not striking out as much as he did last year, so that's helpful. He's going to put the bat on the ball for the most part. You know, not every time, but. So I don't know. I mean, like in a break glass in case of emergency situation, I think he is the best option. I don't think you're going to put Derek Hill there, maybe against the lefty, maybe, or Daz Cameron. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of choices there. And then the other question was about Alex Lang, right? And I kind of touched on my inside the numbers, but I think he's throwing his change and his curve more because they are much better than his fastball. You know, oddly enough, his fastball it's hard. It's like 95, 97, and it sits there, but it gets hit really hard too. And I think it has to do with the shape. You know, just batters get a great view of it, but they don't get a good view of his curve and his change. So he's basically a pitching backwards pitcher. He uses the fastball like a changeup. Essentially, it's just to keep hitters honest and know that he could blow it by you if he has to. But yeah, it's kind of the modern style of pitching coaches that we've seen in the last basically the last decade. I want to say the Astros kind of pioneered this, where they just said, "Hey, if that's your best pitch, throw it all the time. Not all the time, but you know, make that your primary pitch." And so that's what we've seen, and it's working pretty well, I would say. I don't know if it's going to last. You know, if he has a long-term career, if he's throwing 90% secondary pitches, but we'll see.
Yeah, his curveball, in terms of, has been able to. Right now, his fastball usage is at 9%, and that's he was mentioning the rate earlier. And look, if it's not going to the Astros, we talked about this a few years ago, Chris. I mean, we thought that the Astros were way ahead of the curve with that. At some point, would Detroit do it? Now we're actually seeing real tangible evidence of that, which started last year. So the thing is that I think he's just the one thing that's kind of part of the conversation is as long as they leave him at 1 inning, because it goes multiple innings sometimes. I know Hinch likes multiple innings. In this case with that curveball, I don't know. Like I don't want to overdo it. You know what I mean? Like we saw, if you remember Al Albuquerque, he had that slider and Dan Nickerson that change, and he had some arm issues. So I'd rather preserve that as much as possible with currently right now as it is. They're using him a lot because they have no other choice, but still, as far as that goes, at some point the fastball, I think once people sit on the curveball, he can sneak that fastball in. He get the high part of the zone. He was able to hit the high part of the strike zone with that fastball before, and I wouldn't see why not. As far as leadoff hitter, you just answered the question. I can't really add to it, and there's nobody in the minor leagues that are able to solve that either. So, do you have anything to add before we moved on?
No, I'm good.
Okay,
I had a little technical issue there.
Nah, no problem. All right, Chris, what's the next question?
We got a whole gangload of them today, so very nice. Let's see. We have Steve Cook said, "What is Alex Faedo's ceiling as a player?"
That's a good question.
5-2, baby.
What's that?
5-2.
5
innings, 2 runs.
There you go. Yeah, 5-2. He is Alex the 5-2. I mean, I think that we've all been impressed to a certain extent about the way he's composed himself and the way he's attacked hitters, and his stuff has at times looked pretty good. But I think there is a pretty moderate ceiling on him. I don't think I mean, you never put it past any pitcher to get a lot better or to get better, but I don't picture him getting a ton better than he is right now. But I think what he is right now is perfectly acceptable, and I think it's probably a number 4 starter, kind of in. I mean, it's not a guy that most people watch because he plays in Kansas City, but like a Brad Keller. A Brad Keller fastball slider kind of pitcher who his fastball gets hit a little bit depending on what year it is, but he mostly goes out there. He'll eat some innings and give you like 2.5 WAR season, which is totally acceptable to me. And again, way more than I thought we'd get from Fido a month ago. So that's my thought there. I don't know what you guys think.
How about better than Brian Moeller, less than Anibal Sanchez?
I'll take that comp. I'll take that. No, I was talking about this with Keen earlier. Who would expect what we saw today? It was, or just in general, like the string of stuff continues to go. And I mean, the K per nine's at 5, but I'm okay with it because again, even I think it was Cody Clemens made a nice play today, kind of saved him a little bit. The defense backed him up today, but overall, he's going out there and 5 or 6 innings per time, and that's exactly what Detroit needs. And as far as ceiling goes, if he's a 4th starter, he has one 2-star stuff. Chris, you and I talked about this before. Well, that slider when it's on. I mean, he made pitching ninja today, but I think his ceiling is 3rd or 4th starter. That's just again.
I would agree.
All right, so let's move on. Steve, he was also the one who he loves Colt Keith, so he wanted to talk about Colt Keith. He said he homered twice today. That's 8 home runs, 30 RBIs, 500 slugging, 904 PS. What's his ceiling as a prospect? Maybe, or an MLB comp? Oh, and when is Erie coming? So I'll let you guys take lead off on this one.
Well, there's somebody in the Discord channel asked about him, and who was the other person they asked?
Was it Kerry Carpenter? No.
I think it was Kerry Carpenter. But look, Colt Keith, for doing the things he's doing at 20 years old, as Michael pointed out in YouTube, he's not even 21 yet. Like, this is the second best bat. Excuse me, in the Tiger system right now. I think he hits Erie by middle in a couple weeks. I thought by now he'd be in Erie, but there might be some sort of positional thing behind the scenes stuff that we're not aware of. But he'll probably be in Erie by the middle of the month. That's just speculation. He should be in Erie, but I mean the Tigers right now have been also. Chris and I were talking about this earlier today. I called them because there's a couple players they've signed and not set, and it's like really under the rate. Like it's been relievers, or there's an outfielder that used to be a reliever for the Great Lakes for the Dodgers. But yeah, it's been strange. Anyway, get back to my point. I think as a comp level, I mean, right now he's got line drive power that could turn into home run power. But if I'm I'm not really good at comps, to be honest with you, because it's one of those things where I have to really think about. I'm so focused on Detroit and everything. But if I was thinking about if I thought of a comp. So Chris, tell me, or you guys tell me both of them sacrilegious here for a comp in terms of like a poor man's Norland guy from St. Louis.
Nolan Gorman?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought about him as a kind of third baseman, second baseman. I think Gorman has more usable power. I should say more raw power.
Right.
I think Colt Keith, does have plus raw power, and he's getting to more of it in the game. But Gorman's that's Gorman's calling card. I would say that Colt Keith is more of a hitter with plus raw power. He's a particularly hard guy to come up with a comp for because it's kind of a unique skill set where we talk about it. It's a line drive swing for the most part, but he's got plus raw power and he's got strength and he's got a really strong arm, but I'm not entirely sure he's going to stick at third base because I don't. We've seen him plenty, and he's a big kid now. He's like 235 pounds, and you can get away with that now, like second base and third base, at least while there's still the shift in baseball. But yeah, I wonder if he might eventually move to an outfield corner, like right field, just because he feels a little. When you watch him, he seems a little stiff. I call him like a waist bender,
like legs. You're talking about, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't have the world's softest hands. Like, you don't. I think it could work at third base and also at second base, but I think ultimately his best position will probably be in the outfield. But I still think, I think you're probably looking at a potential, basically strong side platoon player, maybe everyday regular, and an outfield corner who's going to hit you 280 with 20 plus home runs. You could call that like, I don't know, it's different. I wouldn't call him like a left-handed Nick Castellanos, because Castellanos has since had a couple really monster seasons. But it's that kind of like middle era Nick Castellanos where, and I also think Keith probably will have a little bit better plate discipline than Castellanos.
Definitely.
But you're talking about like a quality average outfielder in terms of offense. And I don't know, like that's all we've really ever wanted at Tigers.
Just give us two more players. That's all I want.
Just some average players. There was a time when we thought Isaac Paredes was going to be an average player. We thought Daz Cameron would be an average player. That's all we wanted from these guys. And it's, as time goes on, it's proven how hard it is to be an average big leaguer. Jeimer Candelario has been average to slightly above average several times, and it's hard enough maintaining that. So, like we can dream on Colt Keith and be like, yeah, he's going to turn into the next Rafael Devers. But I think that's a bit much.
I agree with you.
Big leagues at 20.
I agree with you, Chris. I think if right now I just would like an average player, and I think he's going to make it to the major leagues, no doubt. He's doing well, not even at 21 yet. So, but right now, that's the kind of comp in terms of comp off the top of my head right now. That's what I would go with. But again,
and it's become harder to judge when guys get called up now. A lot of it is like, hey, is there room? But some of it used to be like you could just count on guys getting called up right after the All-Star break. There's not really any All-Star break anymore. There's like a half season point, and the draft is then like a month later. And it used to be like they would just backfill guys. So it's a little bit harder to do all the roster maneuvering. But you could certainly argue that on merit he deserves a promotion. It's just, who's going to come down or move up or get skipped out in his stead? Are they going to cut Dane Myers, who had a 2-run homer today? I would hope that they wouldn't do that. He's been an effective player. So I don't know. It's tough to figure, but I agree with you, Rogelio, that it's going to be soon.
Yeah,
probably within the next month.
All right. What's the next question?
Next question. We have. Here we go. Dwight R. Davis said, taking current situation as permanent just for fun. If I told you in 2019 that of Mize, Manning, and Skubal, one would be an ace and two would be mediocre injured, would you take it?
Let's let Uper chime in on this, because I think Uper, I'm intrigued to hear Uper's take on this.
Well, anytime you take three big name pitchers like that with big hopes, odds are good. At best, two of them are probably going to pan out, because that's just how it goes. Pitchers break, as we all know. So he's saying we get one certified ace. So by that, if you go by, is it Chris with the, that means top 5 or 10 pitchers in baseball?
Yeah.
Let's go with Chris's definition. Let's say now we got one who's the 8th best pitcher in baseball and two guys who kind of are wishy-washy. That ain't bad. That's pretty good. You got one big dog to pull you along. I think you could take that. You'd like more, and I still think they can do more, but that's okay with me.
As far as, it never works. Again, I'm not trying to be a cynical jerk when I say this, but I look at we talked about this before, the mid-90s Mets rotation. It was supposed to be the next big wave.
Yep.
The current Mets one right now with Noah Syndergaard and the guy who's got coke problems.
The Dark Knight.
Matt Harvey.
Matt Harvey and Jacob DeGrom. Yeah.
There's a picture of him I saw last month. Somebody showed me a picture of him. I think it was Abe in Southfield. And his nose was bleeding. He's like, "You didn't know he had a coke problem?" I'm like, no, I don't pay attention to that kind of stuff. And anyway, so whatever, teach your own. DeGrom is supposed to be the next big wave, and they never work out all at once. It always, you expect one or two, if you're lucky, all three, but it never happens. I mean, even I'll go back to Jason Beret. Let's date myself here. Jason Beret, Jack McDowell, and Alex Fernandez.
That sounds right. early 90s
Oh,
White
Wilson
Sox.
Alvarez. Thank you.
Wilson Alvarez.
Yeah, Wilson Alvarez. That was supposed to be a big thing for the White Sox rotation. And when they had one good year with that rotation, and then Fernandez went to Miami, I think, or to Florida. It just all went to crap. Jason Beret hung out for a while, but same thing with Wolf Alvarez. I remember him in Tampa, but Detroit's never had this kind of luxury, and so I don't know. Like, I've always expected it to be at least one or two. It would be, to me, it would be either a combination of Mize, Fido, and unknown, like Brisky, for example, or a free agent or two fill in the blanks. So,
yeah, for my part, I would absolutely take that. I think a legitimate ace is just about the hardest thing you can to find in baseball.
Yeah.
Unless maybe like an MVP caliber up middle, like shortstop, center fielder, catcher. And if you can get one of those, you grab them and you hold on to them tightly. It like you said, like just take any three pitcher. I always go back to 6 years ago. The Tigers land Matthew Boyd, Daniel Norris, and Michael Fulmer. Two of those guys were at one point top 50 prospects in baseball. I think Norris got up into the top 20s. And you look at what they've become. Matthew Boyd was a solid, serviceable starter for several years. Daniel Norris had a couple fits and starts and never really did much of anything. And Michael Fulmer he was a great starter, or a very good starter, then a injured starter, then a bad reliever, then a very good reliever. And that's kind of, I would say that the Tigers probably did better than average with that trio. So if you can get an ace, if Scooble's an ace, and he sure as hell looks like it right now, then basically getting anything at all from Mize and Manning would be a win for me. So obviously, you'd love it, everybody to all work out, but yeah, I would take that outcome. Twice a week and 7 times on Sunday. I don't know what this thing is. So we got a couple more questions. We got Epic B3C said, "What do you think?" He's always asking us about the draft, which is fun. Said, "What do you think of Brock Porter?" This is a really good question. And also, who is your favorite draft pick in the last 3 years outside of the first round?
So Brock Porter, I saw him against Catholic Central, and there was like 20. I'm not kidding, like 15 to 20 scouts there, and I was with the great Brian Sikowski. By the way, congratulations on him getting engaged. Friend of the show, one of the all-time. You know what? I'm gonna call it. I have OG people. Brian Sikowski is an OG. Like, he's the original gangster because he's been part of the show for the whole entire time we've been doing this. So you and I, Chris, in our current incarnation. So shout out to Brian Sikowski and him getting engaged, and he's living in Cleveland now too. So we're no longer neighbors. But anyway, I digress. He invited me out. I went to go see Brock Porter, and he just chef's kiss kind of thing. Like he looked really good. I think that he still needs to develop his secondary on a consistent basis, but his fastball is at 95, 96, and consistently. And then second, third inning went down to 92, 91-ish. But when you got John Morosi there, the Pope, John Morosi coming down from Elevate Network to grace your presence is something special. And I think he's projected to go first round, like the Mets I've heard projected or along those lines. But it's a high school arm, and so of course we know the risk. Yes, we are aware that Job is a risk. Thank you, but yeah, he's legit. I really think he is. He might need a little more time developing, like I said, but I really like that. They had this catcher. I think he was going to Auburn. I think it was.
Is it Ike Irish?
Yeah, I think that's the guy's name. That guy backpick like just he looked like a minor league catcher out there. He was just a man among boys, man.
They've got 3 like really legit prospects graduating this year, and more on the way. Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Porter live. I've seen video clips of him and stuff, and it's got the change up, the breaking ball's coming. He's got to be the best prep prospect coming out of Michigan since Ryan Anderson,
Drew Henderson,
maybe Drew Henderson. Yeah, Nick Plummer was a first round pick back in 2015, 2014. Yeah. But Porter, I think, is on talent, he's a potential top 10 pick. Now, he's a right-handed high school pitcher, so he's almost certainly not going to go in the top 10. But would it shock me if he ends up being one of the top 10 players from this draft? It would not. So he's one of the best players, high school players, come out of Michigan in decades. So that's pretty cool. I don't necessarily want the Tigers to take him just based on the way the system is right now. It's and you can never have too much pitching, but you can also have not enough hitting. You can have that. And so let's get some bats.
Is he connected to a college right now?
I don't think so. I
thought he was committed. Let me see.
Maybe it was maybe he is. I'm not sure. Maybe it was Duke? No. I didn't think he was.
I thought he was committed to Tennessee or something like that, but let me see. I'm checking the perfect game page. Clemson.
Clemson.
Okay.
Yes. So, but that ain't happening unless he, fingers crossed he doesn't get hurt or something like that. But yeah, he's going in the first 50 picks, I think, for sure. All right. 2 more questions, I think. Yeah. And this one's kind of fun one too. Oh, we didn't answer who our favorite draft pick from the last 3 years outside of the first round is. I'll let you guys go first. What? No, me?
You go ahead.
Not Daniel Cabrera.
No, he hit a home run in his first at bat back in low high A today.
In the last 3 years.
Yeah. So.
I honestly, I probably have to go. Go ahead, Uber.
Colt Keith's the easy answer. That's the obvious one. If you drill down a little deeper, I keep tabs on Dingler pretty hard.
Yep.
I think it's easy for me to say it's probably Andre Lipsius because I'm still hoping I'm on hope. I just like him because the fact that he walks, plays all these different positions. He seems like goes out there, does his business. And the fact that he was able to switch his swing and constantly tinker with his stuff and still be a solid contributor. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, there's some good choices there. You got Bo Brisky, even as a 2019 pick. But I'm gonna go with my man. I'm just gonna ride this until it doesn't work. But I'm gonna go with my man Josh Crouch, the catcher. What did they pick him?
He into the kitchen. Keans makes his face. He's like, "Ooh," like he doesn't know the Josh Crouch love. I thought you did.
Josh Crouch. I'm a Crouch potato. I'm on the Crouch wagon.
Oh yeah, you're right. Kean is the catcher guy. So
11th round last year. I've said this many times. I saw one at bat from him in spring training, and I was like, "That's good. I like what I saw." He caught a breaking ball, adjusted to it. You could see him like he was getting geared up to swing, and then made that minute adjustment where he held back just a little bit and drove a double off the right field wall. And I was like, "Well, hey, maybe this guy can hit."
Hey, no.
And so far, this guy can hit. He's hitting 323 this year. He hit a grand slam tonight. He is, let's see, what was his game tonight? 5 RBIs.
Screw Wake County, man. Thank you, Wake County, for not having a camera. Come on. Really?
Yeah.
Cleveland, you can't chip in on that? Come on. West Michigan has this offensive explosion, and we have zero highlights.
Well, Justin was there, our buddy Justin. Oh, yeah, so we got a couple video clips, but yeah, not the way that we would have done it with, Colt Keith's 2 home runs and a double and Josh Crouch grand slam. But like I said, I don't know if it's going to work at higher levels. I don't know, but he's a catcher who's hitting over 300, showing a little pop, and he's playing solid defense. Like I said, I think he's a good receiver, and he's got a pretty strong arm. Like there's a lot there that points me to a future potential big leaguer, but it could all fall apart when he faces better arms. I don't know.
Well, the 11th round, that's not that late. I mean, Kurt Casale's a 10th rounder, and he's still having a very nice life in Major League Baseball.
Yeah, Will Vest was a 11th, 12th rounder. Like you can still find guys in that range, and he's an interesting guy. Where I think he was at Central Florida or something like that. Josh Crouch,
Central Florida.
He had a big power explosion his final year, and then so I don't know. Like I said, I just dig him because it's a catcher with some hitting ability. So, and let's see. All right. So here's the fun one that I was saying. Deadly Ninja Bees said, if every pitcher were healthy, who's your rotation? And what about the bullpen? Lots of pleasant surprises this year. So,
you know what, Huber, you go ahead and handle this one first.
I'm trying to write down the 5 names here. Well, I'm still going Scooble and Mize. If everyone's healthy, I still want to see what Casey Mize ultimately will be. So he's in there for me. Obviously, Scooble's up top. If the goal is still to contend this year and we believe they can rally for it, then I'm going with track record. I would go with Eduardo Rodriguez. Number 3. 4, as we talked about earlier, is he a 3 or a 4 starter? Alex Faedo was he's growing on me. I think you keep giving him the ball until he looks like he shouldn't have the ball anymore. And then that 5th place, oh boy, just drawing out of a hat, I guess. I mean, they're all pretty close at that point.
For me, go ahead, Chris.
No, you go ahead. I'm always going ahead.
Okay, so I would probably go with Scooble, Eduardo Rodriguez, Casey Mize, Alex Faedo, and Michael Pineda.
Huh? I didn't even think of Pineda, but yeah.
Pineda. Yeah. The reason why, here's a reason why. I mean, I think he pitches, I thought he was going out there pitching pretty effectively. And over Brisky, you want that kind of veteran. I mean, because Brisky still has to develop a 3rd pitch. And we're going to see a true test of it. He's going to that bandbox in New York where you literally can sneeze and hit a home run. So that'll be a true test for him. But I just go with a veteran over a rookie just for that reason. And Brisky, I think, was one of those people who we didn't expect to see until later on this year. He was on a fast track, don't get me wrong. But I still think he needs to develop a 3rd pitch consistently. I mean, we saw some of the slider his last start, but I would. That's who my 5 would be.
Yeah, I think I'm in lockstep with you there. It would basically come down to the 5th starter. Yeah, so I would go Scooble, Erod, Mize, Fido, and then it would come down to Pineda versus Manning. And, ideally, I guess I would keep throwing Manning out there to try to get him to show something more. But if you're trying to win, I think I would go with Pineda. Just I trust him more, even though I don't trust him a whole ton. It's all things being equal, I think he'd probably give you better results than Manning. So,
right.
In the bullpen, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, you.
It was only 4 innings. I get that, and he got hurt. That's bad. What did we see from Wentz that we liked versus that first outing? How much can we pull out of 4 innings?
I can't. You know what? That was the first outing I saw that everything was in the zone. He was hitting his spots, and it was primarily fastball, but nothing was up. It was down. His curveball, Chris, his curveball had some really good snap to it. But everything, like before, everything, even in Toledo, was hung up in his zone. He couldn't spot his locations pretty well. And that start, it looked like a night and day. I mean, I was astonished. I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, until then, I mean, I was just convinced he was gonna go back to Toledo regardless. But
yeah, it was fun to watch.
Yeah,
that was as good as I'd seen him, and he didn't have his changeup, which is it used to be his best secondary offering. He was throwing his cutter a lot, which I think is a new pitch for him this year, right, Rod?
Yeah, that's correct.
So, yeah, it's tough to say. He made one good start, one bad start. We've seen that from a bunch of guys.
Right.
But I throw him in the pile there with Brisky and Elvin Rodriguez and Ronnie Garcia, and when there's a death match and Tyler Alexander. I'd like to Tyler Alexander coming into the year. I thought he was a solid starter last year, but I guess what have you done for me lately? He was kind of rough this season. So, yeah, it's funny thinking about they basically have the second rotation once everybody gets healthy. So that's nice luxury to have, I suppose.
Yeah, and Garcia, I think, is better in the bullpen.
I agree.
His slider this year has been fantastic. But his secondary stuff is really good. But he's a guy that they had a spot start him, and I think he's better suited out of the bullpen. So,
yeah.
As far as the bullpen goes, Pretty good.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't really complain about the bullpen. If anybody does complain about the bullpen, then you don't watch enough baseball and you're an idiot. So,
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I would swap out Barnes and I Foley
Barnes, yeah.
for Cisnero and Funkhauser.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
I mean, it's with relievers. It's always like, what have you done this year?
By the way, Gabe asked on YouTube how Akil's doing in Toledo. He's still out with an injury.
Yeah, he's still nursing that sore oblique, I think. So.
Yeah, sore oblique.
And Ryan Kreidler hasn't played the last 2 days.
Yeah, his hands soreness or something like that.
Yeah, who would have guessed that coming back in like 3 weeks from broken bone hand surgery you might feel a little bit sore after swinging a baseball, but
I can't imagine his batting glove, like putting on his bag, like taking off his batting glove, it's just be like just swollen.
Yeah, it'd be throbbing. So
yeah,
it's probably going to affect his power the rest of the year, really.
Yeah,
I would think so. Yeah,
yeah, through the zone like that. Oh, Karen.
And all right, the last question. I don't even know if this was meant for the podcast, but it was our buddy Nick Spillane. I had responded. You posted the video of Roberto Campos with his double, and I said, "Hey, it's 98 miles an hour. He hit one ground ball earlier, 103 miles an hour, and he's been hitting the ball hard as hell all year, especially for a guy that young. He's still 18, I believe. His average exit velocity is like 70th percentile by major league standards, but he's got a super low average launch angle. It's like 3 degrees. And so basically, I said, yeah, all he needs to do is hits the ball hard as hell. He just needs to get in the air more. And Nick said, he's still so young, but is there any chance to be concerned considering Paredes also had similar issues in the Tiger system trying to develop loft in its swing? No, and that's the thing. That was not Paredes' issue. Paredes' issue was he couldn't hit the ball hard. He's got loft in his swing. He just couldn't hit the ball hard frequently. It's kind of the opposite issue. Campos hits the hell out of the ball. He just needs to lift it a little bit more to really start being a terror. And I don't know. All things being equal, I guess I would rather have the guy who hits it really hard and try to teach him loft than the guy who can't hit it hard and try to teach him to hit it harder. But
I mean, that's like yesterday he had a half cut swing that was a missile up the middle. I mean, of course, some douchebag from the Pittsburgh fan was classified. Oh, that's not a swing. Like, no. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's a hit, right? Who cares?
Well, yeah, it was a hit. But it was still a hit because he just literally it was a half chuck swing, kind of a defensive swing. It was smoked.
Mm-hmm.
And tonight in that double, it was a really good approach at the plate. He doesn't when he does take a big swing, it's not that like it's wasted, but he's still like even running. Like I noticed it was a little bit of he's still trying to figure things out a little bit, but I'm not worried about Campos. And as far as I'm concerned, for his age, doing what he's doing. And shout out to Manuel Sakura, by the way, who he's like a lot of the guys on the Flying Tigers. Some of the players, for example, like Carlos Mendoza is like 5'7". He's built like a brick, and but Sakura looks like he's like a man among boys, because some of the like was it Chafin or not Chafin? The guy who got the outfield number 45. I'm trying to think of his name right now. I'm trying to blank. The outfield, the guy who got a hit before he left. The guy who hit a double.
Alvaro Gonzalez. I know who you're talking about. The outfielder.
Chacon looks like
Anthony Chacon.
Chacon looks like somebody you wouldn't off the street. Doesn't look like a player, but but some of these guys like do, and even Gonzalez started tonight too. But I really like honestly. The reason why I came down here was to see what they had in Santana. Unfortunately, he's on the IL. Benitez is on the IL, which I really wanted to see him. But pretty impressed with Campos, and Pacheco too, same thing. So, and all right, that's gonna be our last question for the night too, Gabe. In there, when can Hinch put Harold Castro full-time starter in a position if he keeps it up?
That's third base, I guess.
Yeah, everyone's like second.
Does Jonathan Scope get hot this summer? Tell me that.
He's very hot. I mean, he's very hot right now.
He's still hitting 195.
But come on, come on.
Yeah, I mean that's after his the first 6 weeks. After the last 2 weeks, he's been.
He's yes.
Let me see.
He's some level of hot. Okay.
All right, I was gonna say, I'm like, what baseball are you watching, my friend? Because I look, we are a critical podcast, but he's been doing the work. It's cliche to say, but
And I have been doing the work.
and I have been doing the work.
Yeah, honestly, I would think, presuming that Meadows comes back and Greene is up, it's kind of tough to maybe left field, maybe third base if Candelario is
third base.
He's not a good defender anywhere you put him. He's an okay defender. He makes some plays, and he's not. It's such a weird player because he's. I looked it up. If you go back to 2000, there are like, I don't know, 11,000 players or something ridiculous like that qualify or have had batted 800 plus times, and he is in the bottom 10 in terms of walk rate. He's tied with Sal Perez and Tim Anderson with a 3.5% career walk rate. And it's just so hard to have sustained success that way. But he does seem to put the bat on the ball, and it's kind of a magic wand for him. So I don't know. I still prefer him as that guy who can fill in and pinch hit when you need it. I think that's his best role. But while he's hot, yeah, I guess you just keep finding places to play him. But I don't think you make room for Harold Castro, even however well he's been playing.
Right. So on that note, thanks everybody for listening to the podcast this evening. If you watched us on live on YouTube or on Twitter, thank you. By the way, Chris, you are forever. I keep telling you this, and I mean this. Please, for the love of God, name all the episodes. You know what he named the episode? You know what he named the episode, folks? He named the episode, That's How You Do It.
Is that what I named it?
Yeah. And I'm looking at him like, this is like, when Paul Wesner over at Tiger Taste Town told me, he's like, oh, Chris is really good at titles. I'm like, yeah, I can tell a title between your title and his title. Same with the podcast, folks.
Yeah.
The really clever ones do not come from me, and I will fully admit it. So, yeah. But at any rate, thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to please leave us you know what? We have 44 reviews. For how many fans we have on this podcast, do me two things. And I normally don't promote ourselves that much, but please just leave us a review. And if you like our work, you want to donate and help us get to places like Lakeland, like Erie, and like all the coverage you're getting. So Sean O'Toole in the chat was probably the best. Sorry for joining late, guys. Started drinking before Daz came up in the 8th, and then I blacked out. That is, and on that note, that's a good way to end the podcast. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you to everybody who participated in the chat. And and if everything goes well with the series, if you guys want us to do a podcast on Sunday or a chat, we usually do the minor league or one of those Twitter Spaces things. Just let us know. I sound like an old man. But yeah, like I said, please leave us a review. We would really appreciate it. Spotify also has reviews now. It just goes a long way. It helps us come up in search. And my goal is for us to be regularly in the top 50 again among baseball podcasts. So if you enjoy the work, we appreciate it. And Chris and you, do you have anything coming out from Motor City Bengals or no?
You
just put out an article today about all the guys batting 100 and in the 100s, and if they can start moving back toward their career norms, what that can do for the offense over the summer.
All right, and Chris?
Yeah, I've got a speculative trade piece coming up, and then probably some draft coverage. I don't know.
Yeah. And I got an article probably coming out tomorrow at some point. But I'll be back in Lakeland tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see Jackson Jobe. Fingers crossed. And please, for the love of God, Flying Tigers, please do the same thing that that they did tonight. And Sean, that was an awesome comment. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon. Doing the Lord's work on covering the minors for a 4th place team.